Hi there, Christina here with ETM. I thought we'd talk a little bit about vinyl today because we're in Alberta and Alberta loves vinyl. You guys buy a lot of vinyl. Vinyl is sold in it's three different types in two different configurations. You can either get a click floating vinyl floor or you can get a glue down vinyl floor. We'll start with the click floating because it comes in two different styles. So there's a WPC and an SPC. So you'll know a click floating because it's rigid. It doesn't really have a lot of flex to it, and you'll see the locking mechanism on it. So that just goes by locking into another piece, and it's called floating because it doesn't actually float, but it's not pinned down, whereas a glue down vinyl is obviously glued down to the subfloor. So SPC and WPC. So WPC was first to market. That was the first original click floating vinyl floor. It stands for wood plastic composite. Sometimes you'll hear it be called a waterproof core. A little misleading because both SPC and WPC are waterproof. Or expanded core, it's called. So WPC. It's generally much thicker than an SPC simply because it has air bubbles locked into the core. And that actually helps it be a little warmer underfoot and a little better of an insulator and sound deadening qualities. It also takes emboss and register a little better than an SPC. So that means you can get a little bit more realistic if you're going for a realistic wood look. So embossed and register just means that it has some texture to it that like a real wood would. Like a real wood would. So that's basically a WPC. So then they came out with SPC. SPC is a little thinner, and it was because WPCs, you couldn't put heavy furniture on them. It would dent, it would buckle, like it just wasn't handling the heavy furniture. So SPC stands for stone plastic composite. So it's or solid polymer core, also called a rigid core. It's stronger, handles heavy furniture, better for commercial use, thinner, but not as flexible. So it's going to be more rigid. They're both rigid. You probably wouldn't be able to tell, but like when cutting it and stuff like that, installation, it's a little bit more of a rigid product. It's best for commercial. It's more temperature stable, and it's a little better water resistance just due to the density of its core. So that is your two different kinds of click floating. Now, when it comes to glue down, glue down comes in many different thicknesses. This is a 5 mil product. So, and you can see really flexible, really bendy. So the one thing to be careful with this is what I wanted to show you guys was Chinese made glue down. So what you want in a glue down, because in vinyl, temperature is the enemy. Heat will make vinyl expand, cold will make vinyl contract, especially with a glue down. If it contracts, you're going to get gaps in between it. I mean, it'll grow back when it heats back up again, but a good installation, if you get a proper installation, you're not ever going to have that problem. But what helps with that is what they call a fiberglass sheet. So they put a fiberglass sheet in the middle of the vinyl, and that helps it become more temperature stable so that the heat and cold doesn't affect it so much. So what I've been told, I haven't fact checked this, is that China cannot figure out how to put a full sheet of fiberglass reinforcement in there. That's why most glue down vinyls, quality glue down vinyls, are gonna come from Korea. And they seem to have the market cornered on how to figure that out because they know how to make the vinyl actually stick to the fiberglass so that it all becomes one. China can't figure that out. So I don't know if you guys can see, I've cut this off. This is a Chinese piece. So they'll say fiberglass reinforced, but you see how it's a mesh? Mesh is not very stable. That's actually not really going to help you at all. It's just China's way of being able to say they put some fiberglass in there. So it's actually much harder to show you on a Korean made one. So I did my best here because you can see the white line. So that is a full sheet fiberglass reinforced. And it's harder to show you because the vinyl doesn't actually pull away from that sheet. When I cut this, it pulls that because it's laminated to it. It's actually attached to it. So that's one thing to watch out for. Anything smaller than a 5 millimeter glue down is not going to be able to have that vinyl sheet in the middle just because it's too thin and they can't make it happen. Doesn't mean the product isn't as good, but it does mean that it's not as temperature stable, but thinner means less vinyl to actually be affected by the temperature. So talk to your flooring expert. They're going to help you out with your application. It becomes a real issue if you have huge south-facing windows, something like that gets a lot of temperature change. But there's special glues, all kinds of things you can do. So the other thing I wanted to talk about was wear layer. So on top of them, it's called a mil, and I believe it's a millionth of an inch wear layer. So what it is you're going to see 12 mil, you're going to see 20 mil. If you go to a flooring store, that's what you're going to see most of all. So 20 mil is going to be commercial wear layer, and that's just the thickness of the top coat on it that protects it, right? And I used to say, when I worked retail, you're never going to walk through a 12 mil. Like, there's no way in a house, in a residential, that 12 mil is not enough. Like, it is. 20 you want to go do for commercial, heavy use, heavy traffic. You're going to get lots of rocks on people's shoes, people wearing their shoes on the floor all the time. That'll need a bigger wear layer. So there's that. You can go lower than that. I don't see much of that in flooring stores, but I'm sure 6, 3 mil wear layers you're going to see in the Home Depots and stuff like that. Another good reason to go to a flooring store. Installation, huge in vinyl. Now, it's sold as a good DIY, and it is. But what you have to know is all flooring, but especially vinyl and floating floors, it's all about prep. You really need a super, super level floor. You need to take your time. You need to make sure that everything is done right and that there's rules with each of them, whether it's glue down or vinyl. So this is reason number one that I like to send people to a flooring store to do these things. They're experts and they know it's different if you're putting it in a basement. It's different if you're putting it upstairs. It's different if you're using floating, if you're using SPC, WPC, what it's all good for. You want to go into a flooring store where they know what they're talking about and they're going to help you pick the right product for your application. And even just like do-it-yourself advice, like even if you want to buy it from them and do it yourself, at least then they're going to help you and tell you, hey, what you need to do and what you don't do and stuff. So, and then lastly, I'd like to talk a little bit about cleaning because I think everybody cleans vinyl floors. Not everybody, but I find a majority don't know how to clean them properly. So you can't just use any multi-purpose cleaner on vinyl. It ends up detergents turn into like a glue, and then the glue will like it'll cement the dirt into it, and most vinyl is textured, so you're going to end up with that dirt glued into the texture, and it's really hard. The only way to get it off is a stiff bristle brush and scrubbing by hand. So the trick to cleaning it is a pH neutral cleaner. So you want to go out and buy something. They're relatively cheap. You can go to Home Hardware. You can buy an Odoban. Just the key is a pH neutral cleaner. And if you've had your floor for a few years and have been using a Mr. Clean or something along those lines, you're going to want to scrub it. Lippmann makes a mop with really stiff bristles that you can use standing up so you don't have to get down on your hands and knees. But I would suggest scrubbing it and then switching over to pH neutral cleaner. Okay, that's kind of the 411 on vinyl, quick and dirty. If you have any questions, just comment below. Thanks.